Thanks for joining us today. As you success, we continue to give you tips on various topics that change your mindsets for a better tomorrow. The topic today is creating a heat map in Excel using conditional formatting. By the end of this module, you will have a general understanding of what a heat map is. You will understand what a heat map in Excel is. You will appreciate the importance of using heat maps to visualize data. You will learn how to create a heat map in Excel using conditional formatting. Let's look at what a heat map is. In general, a heat map is a two-dimensional representation of data in which values are typically represented by colors, often red, green, and yellow, and can range in complexity from simple, for example, showing qualitative risks only, to more complex, including qualitative and quantitative risks in the risk assessment process. Visualization of risks using a heat map presents a concise, big-picture view of the full risk landscape to discuss while making decisions about the likelihood and impact of risks within the company. Organizationally, it's important to note that a full risk identification and assessment process is generally required before creating a heat map. Let's talk about a heat map in Excel. In Excel, a heat map is a presentation of data using a color shade on each cell in the range in a comparative way for a user to understand it easily. It looks like a map with different colors ranging from dark to light to represent the weightage of the value in the cell. And this color shade helps us to quickly compare values in the cells with each other. Cell with the highest value has green color as the cell color, and the cell with the lowest value has red, and all the cell in the middle has a yellow color. All the values between the highest value and the lowest value have color shade according to their rank. But you can create a heat map like this manually because applying a color to a cell according to its values can be possible every time. Next, we are going to practically create a heat map in Excel using conditional formatting. On this worksheet, the heat map is described as a graphical representation of data where the individual values contained in the matrix are represented as colors. We've got two different worksheets here. The first one has to do with monthly payments. And these amounts could be easily readjusted to reflect higher numbers or possibly be used for examples like buying a car or boat or something like that. And similarly, we've got interest rates across the top here. What we'd like to do is have a whole series of answers here showing us the monthly payment for each of these loans based on the amount and the percent here. And let's say for the moment, all of these are 360 months, we're going to be doing this by way of what's called a data table. If you haven't seen that feature, you'll see it on the Data tab in the ribbon under the Forecast group under What If Analysis Data Table. See the results of multiple inputs at the same time. We begin this process by putting in a master formula here. And we'll be using the data from these cells right here for the master formula. So let us zoom in on this by holding down Control using the mouse wheel. We'll be using the function called PMT. It has three arguments to it. First is the right, we're referring to cell B1. Since we're talking about monthly payments, we'll need to divide this by 12, then NPR, the number of periods of the loan. In other words, how many payments 360 months 30 years, NPV meaning present value, or what are we borrowing this amount right here? As we press enter, we do get the correct answer. However, it's negative. And that is accurate, actually. But it's going to be easier to work with the numbers if it's a positive entry. So let's make a simple change here by double-clicking, and we need to put a minus in front of the PMT or in front of the B3, then the answer will be expressed as a positive number. It's going to be easier to work with. So that's going to be our master formula. Remember, in the master formula, the right is referred to based on what's in cell B1 and the borrowing amount is referred to by cell B3. And as we work with data table, first we'll zoom back holding Control using the mouse wheel. There we go. The data table will consist of all of these cells here. So, we highlight all of these. The master formula is in the upper left corner. So, under What If Analysis. This is in the Forecast group on the Data tab. Choose Data Table. It's asking us for a row input cell. Which cell on the formula relates to the numbers that we see in row 5? That's going to be cell B1. Just click on it. And which number in our formula relates to the column entries that we see over in column A? So, the column input cell here is cell B3. click OK. And we've got a bunch of answers. Now, these show dollars and cents. So, it's a bit busy looking. And before I move on, do notice something here to this cell right here, cell B14, 15.78.68, is very similar to the entry that we see over here in cell I6. For the moment, I'll highlight both of them in yellow. And it does point out the idea: if the interest rate goes up 0.25%, or it goes down by 0.25%, we're talking about a $40,000 difference in the amount of borrowing here. So, what if it somehow dropped and you had been looking at this number on a $373,000 loan, then over here, you see almost the same amount, it's only a 75-cent difference per month. But here, you can borrow $413,000 if it weren't that interest rate. So, we'll be able to see this more clearly. If first of all, we change our display here to not include the cents, let me undo the last action with Ctrl+Z to get rid of the color and select all of these cells here and on the Home tab in the ribbon. In the number group, let's show by decreasing the decimals. Now, it's important to note here, we are not changing the value, we are simply displaying rounded versions of these numbers. Do this twice easier to read. Now, we will be able to make these columns a bit narrower too, so we can see them a little bit more clearly. There we go. Now, let's apply the heat map, not by way of a feature called heat map, because you won't see that. But under conditional formatting, we use color scales. And as soon as we slide over the first entry, I think you get a clearer idea of what's going on here. Now, we could use this combination or any of the other two. I think the second one might be a little bit better. There's probably a bias using either or these two. These are both referred to at different times as the traffic light pattern. But red often means something less desirable. In this case, we're paying more. But if we choose this option, it's pretty clear that we pay more wherever the numbers are red and less when they're greener over here. But we do see that diagonal representation like we saw earlier on these two numbers here, which for the moment look identical, although they're very close. We saw these earlier, though. But anyway, that's a good visual depiction of the different amounts that you'll be paying. Now, that is it for now. On this module, we trust that you have learned how to use conditional formatting to create heat maps in Excel. Heat maps are extremely versatile and efficient in drawing attention to trends, and it's for these reasons they've become increasingly popular within the analytics community. But that's just the tip of the iceberg as to why, while other data visualizations must be interpreted either by analysts or business users, heat maps are innately self-explanatory. The darker the shade, the greater the quantity, the higher the value, the type of the dispersion, etc. When existing data visualizations are paired with heat maps, their ability to rapidly communicate key data insights to the viewer is greatly enhanced. Thanks for watching.